What's up, everybody? Welcome to the first ever Sports Media Club podcast of the semester. I'm Justin Oltz. I'm here with Ethan Dabrowski, and today we're going to be talking about not only the World Cup, but we're also going to be talking a lot about the NBA. So let's get
Yes,
started.
sir.
Let's get started, Ethan. Let's start with the World Cup. What do we got?
All right. U.S. men's national team. Earlier in the week, they have a home game against Canada. And right off the bat, 7 minutes in, Canada scores. And that would end up being the winning goal because Canada would dominate wire to wire. And it's a failure and a reflection on the coach when the other team is literally giving you the ball and letting you control possession because they're more confident in their ability to counterattack than your ability to tie. But what really got on my nerves was after losing 2-0 to, our border rival, who's now in position to qualify for the World Cup, they're number one, is that U.S. coach Greg Berhalter goes out after the game and he says, "Oh, I think we dominated tonight." And that got on my nerves a little bit because, you held the ball, but you didn't get shots. You didn't get good shots, much less any shots. You got scored on in less than 10 minutes, and you got scored on right at the end of the game. You didn't score once, and now you're in position of getting booted out of the North American World Cup group for Panama. So right now, as we speak, they're beating up on last place Honduras in 4-degree Ohio weather in the snow. But disappointing to lose to Canada in such a fashion and then have very tone-deaf press conference about the whole thing.
The one thing is about the U.S. national teams, especially in the World Cup, is that like the women's USA team for the World Cup is fantastic.
Yeah.
But then the men's is it's always been hot garbage. It's never been the most impressive in the world. And, that's the one against Canada is definitely more of a must-win game because it's the battle for North America pretty much.
Yeah.
In that sense. And you lose 2-0. It's not a good look.
And last year, there was a lot of optimism around the team because they beat Mexico 3 times in one calendar year. So a lot of people were excited. And there were even some calls that could be like a golden generation for U.S. soccer. And that hype immediately died when they played Canada. And I don't think I've ever seen optimism for a team die quite as fast as it did from the start of that game to 10 minutes into that game. Before the game, there was talk this could be the best U.S. men's team in 20 years.
Yeah, you know what?
They genuinely compete in the World Cup we're hosting. And then after the Canada game, it's like, oh, we might not even make the World Cup until we are automatically in it because we're hosting it.
Yeah, what you said about optimism dying in a game, I don't think you've ever seen a Jets fan before. That's exactly how I am with the Jets. I'm like, oh boy, we picked up Zach Wilson. We picked up a Michael Carter. We picked up all these guys. And then I'm like, oh boy, here we go. We're going to beat Sam Darnold against the Panthers. He just destroys us. And I'm like, okay, we're going 0-17. That's it. We're going 0-17.
My light just came back on behind me. It is what it is.
Yeah, it's very serious. Hopefully the USA national team for soccer, they keep their lead on Honduras. And do they have any more games after this?
Not for another month. They play Mexico again, which 2-0, pretty notable result in that specific rivalry. So it was kind of ironic that we got 2-0'd by Canada. So,
Yeah, well then maybe they got a bit of an ego. They're like, hey, we beat Mexico, let's go up against Canada. And
we beat Mexico 2-0 a bunch of times. For the past 10 years, we've been beating them 2-0. And then they lose 2-0 to Canada. But World Cup hope's still alive. They're safe for now, as long as Panama doesn't make a surprise push out of nowhere, and as long as we don't have to play Trinidad and Tobago.
Oh yeah, that would be difficult. Yeah.
So
Good luck to them. Hopefully they make the World Cup. Hopefully they make the FIFA World Cup this year. Is it this year or is it next year? What is it?
I think it's this year in
Oh,
Qatar.
nice. I love the World Cup. It's one of my favorite sporting
Yeah,
events out there.
it's at the end of the year because it's too hot to play it in the summer.
Yeah,
So,
definitely. But anyway, let's move on to basketball. So let's first start off with this one, Ethan, because I know you're a Nets fan.
I
We do
am.
have some Nets fans that watch this. Yesterday, they lost to the Suns 121-11. Now, the Suns this year have actually been quite a good team. You know that they have the best record in the West. They have the best record overall. They're looking to be a finals contender, maybe the finals favorite this year. So, but you said you have an issue with the way the Nets played yesterday. And now, granted, they were down. They were down KD, and but they did have Harden and Kyrie. So what do you think the issues were for that game?
Well, first and foremost, think that it wasn't refereed very well. That's a very common complaint. So I don't want to come off as sour because they lost, but it felt like sometimes it was more of a ref ball game than a basketball game. But on top of that, an issue with the Nets all season has been consistency and streakiness. And so they'll open up a big lead or go down, and then the game will get close again, and then they'll struggle to finish it out. There have been very few decisive, dominant Nets victories. And for a team with, generational talents in Kevin Durant, James Harden, even part-time player Kyrie Irving, who Kyrie played very well last night, I can't fault him. If he was a full-time player, then that's probably the 1 seed instead of the 6 seed right now. But the Nets are, they're wrecked with injuries. I've been very impressed with the rookie production out of late first rounder Kessler Edwards and Day'Ron Sharpe. I thought, I didn't know how good those guys would be coming out of, the tail end of the first round. Those weren't guys I had projected to go to Brooklyn. And now all of a sudden they're stepping up and filling in that Joe Harris sized hole. But with KD out, Kevin Durant was the game plan. And without him, they don't have a go-to option who they can reliably count on. Harden's production has been down, which for him down is still 25 points a game. So, but without him, they're 2-6. And that's not a great record. That's in fact losing 75% of the time without KD. And if one player alone tanks their season to the point where you go from the 1 seed to the 6 seed, it's not a great look. But I believe in the Nets. I don't know if I believe in Steve Nash as a coach. But there's an issue with a lot of former star players where they don't recognize the importance of role players because they see the star and they know the experience of the star. It's why guys like Jason Kidd haven't worked out, whereas Fred Hoiberg has been a pretty great coach down at Nebraska. But it is what it is.
Yeah, well, I'm going to have to go off on the Nets myself here. I saw the game and I thought, it's not, in my opinion, it wasn't an unexpected loss considering how well the Suns have been doing. But this team, the Brooklyn Nets, are probably the most disappointing team this season. Because at least with the Lakers, at least the Lakers people thought they weren't going to be so great on paper because they're all old. And that's what's their average age? 33. It's the highest in the league. It's not. It's they kind of were expected to potentially not be good. But if you looked on paper, having Kevin Durant, James Harden, Kyrie Irving, even without Joe Harris, which is big shoes to fill, which is why you are right about Kessler Edwards and Day'Ron Sharpe really coming in. It is difficult to fill the role of Joe Harris because he was just so just so good. But I think they're really doing their best with what they got. But my God, you have three superstars. You're sixth in the East, even with a part-time Kyrie Irving. You should probably have the best record in the league. You just should. You got Kyrie Irving. You got Kevin Durant. You got James Harden, and half your games you got Kyrie Irving. I don't know what else. What more they need. Also, as for Steve Nash, I said this starting last year after they lost in the Eastern Conference semifinals in Game 7 against the Bucks. I said this guy stinks. Steve Nash is not a good coach. He doesn't know how to rotate players. That's one thing.
Kevin Durant was playing 40 minutes in December per game.
Exactly.
And now he's injured.
Yeah. Now he's injured, and now he's out for 4 to 6 weeks, which will most likely be 6, knowing him. But he was an all-star captain. He's gonna miss that now because he's injured, and it's all because he's getting put on these heavy loaded minutes because Steve Nash doesn't know how to move players around. It's just ridiculous. I think after this season he should be cut. I think this whole experiment of getting the superstars was nothing but a complete failure. But I do have to ask you this though. James Harden, about a week ago, has said that he's open to kind of different options outside the Nets for 3 reasons. Number one, because of Steve Nash. He doesn't like Steve Nash's rotations. Number 2, he doesn't like Brooklyn, which is understandable. City life isn't for everyone. And number 3, he's very frustrated with the Kyrie Irving situation. So as a Net fan like yourself, where do you think James Harden's going to end up at?
I think that, it's disappointing that Harden hasn't worked out. He's still playing. He's still playing hard too. He's worked really well with Nick Claxton, especially in the pick and roll game, like his last year in Houston. That's what he was doing with Clint Capella. Got Clint Capella a huge contract. I'm going to be disappointed if Harden doesn't work out, considering how much the Nets gave up to get him. Of course, a lot of those players, the only one who really sticks out is Jarrett Allen, outside of, personal connection to that, 2018, 2019 Nets team. But I think that Harden telling in advance that he's going to test free agency gives the front office some leeway, because, it's better than him saying at the last minute, "Oh, I'm done. Oh, good luck. Now you have 2 weeks to replace me, find a replacement." And now we have all season. I will say that if Ben Simmons is the replacement for James Harden, that's going to be a catastrophe. I don't believe in Ben Simmons at all. And I know Daryl Morey and the Sixers they still believe that they can get a James Harden caliber player. I trust Sean Marks as a GM enough not to make a bad move. I mean, Marks has a proven track record as a general manager. Even before the Nets super team, he was able to get guys like Jarrett Allen, D'Angelo Russell. In the draft, he was able to get, Day'Ron Sharpe, Kessler Edwards. Jarrett Allen was a late pick. And I think there's only been very few busts under the Marks regime. Jean and Musa is probably the only one I can name offhand, because I was pretty high on him, and then he busted. So I think the Nets long-term will be fine. They might not be title contenders once this window closes, once Harden is gone, once KD is gone, and then once Kyrie, if he sticks around, if he, I don't know if he's enough alone to lead the Nets to be a championship team. But I think that overall the Nets won't totally bottom out. They won't have any draft picks unless they are able to get a good deal for Harden if they trade him. But I think that Harden's going to play out the rest of the year in Brooklyn. And depending on how well the team does in the postseason, that's going to influence where he goes next year. Because if they win a championship, I doubt he's gone. But I agree with his criticism of Steve Nash in particular, because the Nets in the NBA bubble and right before in early March 2020 were coached by Jacques Vaughn, who overachieved heavily, and he's a really talented coach, and now he's just an assistant. He's the highest paid assistant in the league, but I think that he should be the head man for the Brooklyn Nets. I think he's a very talented coach who knows how to get the best out of his players compared to Steve Nash, whose game plan is give the ball to Kevin for 40 minutes.
It's so bad over there at Brooklyn. I trust me, I feel sorry for the Nets fans, really. Hey, at least I'm not a Knicks fan.
At least we're not.
Yeah, at least we're not Knicks fans. No, I root for the Miami Heat. We're a Miami Heat family back at home. So I know for a fact that yeah, here's the thing. Yes, Sean Marks has been a very good GM, but there is always those rumors flying around to where it's like, oh, Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris for James Harden. And I think if Sean Marks accepts that trade, his like track record is just gonna have one giant blemish on it that's going to overshadow, the Kessler Edwards, Day'Ron Sharpe, and Jared Allen picks. Because I don't even think even that is enough of a kind of redeeming factor for him to make a stupid move as saying Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris is a fair trade for one of the most prolific scorers that league has ever seen. It's just not. And I wish the Nets could be successful because on paper they really should be.
On paper they should be. And Luis Scola gave, back when the Nets were terrible, he gave what a lot of diehard Nets fans call the Scola principle when he gave the quote, "When they are winning, they will get whoever they want." And evidently that was able to get Kevin Durant and Kyrie here. But I don't think the Scola principle is applying to I don't think it's applying to Harden.
Absolutely not. I think another thing that's factoring into it though is that when Kyrie and KD are out, when Kyrie's just not playing because he can't, and when KD's out because he's injured or something, James Harden is basically playing like he did on the Rockets, but in a Nets uniform.
Yeah.
When
he's doing it at a lower production too.
Exactly, but the thing is, when he was playing against the Lakers about a week ago, he had a 33-point triple-double and still lost. That's like Rocket stuff right there. That he always does. They always do on the Rockets, and he'd still lose. It's like I can understand him being frustrated because how much more does the guy have to do? And I know like at the beginning of the season, people were kind of blaming Harden, saying, "Oh, he's not shooting the ball enough. He's kind of he's being less efficient and things like that." But still, he looks. I think he still looks like a great player. Oh my God, what a freaking picture! Is that freaking Westbrook and Rocco behind him?
Yeah.
I used to watch the Rockets all the time, and I was pissed when Daryl Morey decided, you know what? Let's trade Robert Covington. Let's trade Clint Capella for Robert Covington, and let's run Jeff Green at center. Well, let's put PJ Tucker at the 5. Like it was.
Well, Jeff Green ran center for the Nets last year.
Yeah, I saw. Oh, yeah, I saw that. But
Nets have always had both. Wherever Harden goes, you can't get a consistent center. The Nets have like a 1.5. It's Claxton. The Rockets had Clint Capella and then 6'5" PJ Tucker.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I like Claxton, but in my opinion, I think he's going to be. I don't think he's going to be able to make a career for himself on the Nets. I just don't.
I mean, he has one of the coolest nicknames in the NBA, like the Alchemist. Just that alone, MVP level nickname.
That is.
So we have some teams that have no centers, like Brooklyn. Then we have the Cavaliers who have 6 centers. So
they never use like
mm-hmm.
like you said, Taco Fall on that.
Yes.
On the Cavs now, like they never use him. They just
Mobley,
basically
Kevin Love, Taco Fall, Jared Allen. The whole. It's the opposite of Daryl Morey's offense. It's tall ball.
It's tall ball, but sometimes tall ball can be a little bit better, especially in today's.
They're the 4th seed right now. So, evidently, all ball is working out.
Yeah, and Evan Mobley, in my opinion, is a generational big man. He's something else. He's my rookie of the year favorite, to be honest with you, because he's a beast on the court.
Yeah. I've been very impressed with the Cavs, their growth since LeBron has left, and since
Yeah, and I'm also impressed how well they're doing considering Colin Sexton's been out with the torn ACL. I thought they were kind of screwed after that, but there's players that are coming in that are really that they're pounding like Darius Garland. He pounds, dude.
Yeah.
He's insane on the court. By the way, let's move on to the All-Star game. So I'm assuming you saw the All-Star starters. For people that haven't, let me fill you guys in on who they are on the East and on the West. So for the East, we have Kevin Durant as the captain. Then we have Giannis, DeMar DeRozan, Joel Embiid, and Trae Young.
Those are all reasonable. DeRozan's having a career year. Trae Young, I think he's the only real questionable one on there, but he went to the ECF last year. Kevin Durant's injured, so they're gonna have to find someone else.
Yeah. Well, that's my first question because I think Giannis and DeMar and Joel Embiid are undisputed. I think they're all fantastic players. Like they've all deserved an all-star starter kind of season. Especially DeMar DeRozan, who I thought he looked really good in Toronto, and then I thought he looked okay in San Antonio. And then now going into Chicago, he just looks he's insane.
Yeah.
With those back-to-back buzzer beaters back in early January. Like that's some all-star level stuff right there. But who do you think is probably going to be ending up replacing Kevin Durant? Because now you're missing somebody at the front court. So you kind of need a forward there.
I think it's going to be Tatum or Jimmy Butler, to be honest. Jared Allen might sneak in there because he's been one of the best centers. Depending on where you classify him, maybe it could be Drew Holiday. But it's very hard to replace Kevin Durant. It's just the All-Star game, so at the end of the day, it's not game breaking if Jimmy Butler is in there instead of KD, but it's definitely a little less entertaining. So I think Jimmy Butler or Tatum's going to get the starting spot. If it's Tatum, we're going to get at least 3 sideline shots of his kid on the sideline. Deuce Tatum. ESPN's going to eat that up.
I personally think
that East is pretty stacked. This is the first time in a very long time where the East, I can confidently say, is probably better than the West, more competitive than the West.
It is, especially in the sense of records. Like they're all so close to each other. But then again, that's always been the case. Like usually if it's the West, it's like if you can get ahead by just like 2 games, you're gonna stay there for a while.
Yeah, I mean, the East, they're all beating up on each other, whereas the West, it's like 2 or 3 teams beating up on everyone else. And typically the role's been reversed, where it's been these 60-win teams in the East, and then a 38-win team in the 8th seed. But now this year it's going to be 67-win Suns in the 1 seed, and then like 35-win Portland or whoever in the 8th seed, or the Lakers, who sneak in there. I'm not a fan of the play-in I don't like the playoffs being super large because I feel like it takes away. I like baseball's playoffs because I feel like it makes the regular season matter. Whereas if 20 teams make the playoffs, what's the point of watching the regular season?
Yeah. For personally, I don't have that big of an issue with the plans because I can equate it simply to like the NFL wild card. Because some people are saying, oh, you're punishing teams for having bad records. Like the Washington football team now just confirmed to be called the Washington Commanders a few hours ago. got into the wild card and almost beat the Buccaneers. Like, and they were 7-9 team. Like you basically awarded a team for going 7-9. It's not that. It's really not that impressive. But I don't think the plans are a bad thing. It's kind of funny for like upsets and things and things like that. But when we look at the All-Star voting, I'm probably gonna have to say that it's probably gonna end up being Jason Tatum because right after Joel Embiid for the front court, it then goes Jason Tatum. So that's probably gonna be where he stands there. It'll probably end up being him at forward, and then if not him, it'll be Jarrett Allen, and then if not him, it would be Jimmy Butler. But now let's move on. Let's talk about the West because that is the most controversial one, including for me. It is LeBron James as the captain, of course, Nikola Jokic, Andrew Wiggins, Steph Curry, and John Morant. Now, a lot of this seems okay, but there's one big blemish that everybody's talking about, and his name is Andrew Wiggins. Let's talk about it.
I mean, all respect to Andrew Wiggins, but the Warriors named a famous, very popular K-pop singer as their global ambassador right before All-Star voting, and they counted All-Star votes via tweets and Twitter likes this year, which I don't really understand, but it is what it is. And so Andrew Wiggins rode the wave of K-pop success into an All-Star game. You know what? All respect to him. He probably got a huge bonus, probably making a lot of money from this. But he's averaging 18 points per game. He's probably the worst All-Star starter ever. I struggled to think of anyone worse. Maybe, I don't think Kyle Korver was a starter. He was a replacement player for an injured guy. I'd have a hard time thinking of worse All-Stars, much less worse All-Star starters than Wiggins. And when you look at the people who did not make the starting lineup, it's astounding. Chris Paul, Devin Booker, Luka, they're not starters. And if you want to look at forwards, Gobert, Karl Anthony Towns, even fellow Warrior Draymond has a case.
Yeah, I was just about to say that because it's nuts. Like, in my opinion, I think the guards are fine. I think John Morant has really proved himself.
The Grizzlies are awesome this year.
Yeah, the Grizzlies are awesome, and it's kind of mostly off the back of John Morant. Like that, like if you were to talk about right now who deserved to be the number one pick in that draft class, it would be without a doubt John Morant because Zion doesn't even play, and RJ Barrett, though he looks good, like he was deserving of it. John Morant was like he's looking like he deserved to be number one on that list, no doubt. And as for the kind of the all-star conversation, because I definitely think Chris Paul, Luka, and Devin Booker did get snubbed. However, unfortunately, they're not. Unfortunately, they're kind of listed as guards, and not even forwards. But even that, I would probably argue Rudy Gobert should have been up there.
Yeah, Rudy Gobert is having, Rudy Gobert gets a bad rap because a lot of highlight dunks are against him. But you don't get dunked on if you're not defending. And he does a lot of things that don't show up in the stat sheet that you have to actually watch games. Like on defense, he clogs up passing lanes. He forces teams to abandon the paint and forces them outside, and it's a contested mid-range shots. And that's not stuff that gets appreciated by fans because it's not flashy, it's not fancy, it's not in the stat sheet. So you can't go on Twitter and say, oh, Rudy Gobert had 21 diverted passes, forcing the pass somewhere else,
Yeah, but
it's a lot flashier to point out, oh, this player scored 40 points, this player scored 50 points. There's not a lot of appreciation for a player like Gobert. He gets dunked on a lot. both figuratively and literally, because
Yeah, he does. He does get a bad rap. I remember when he was, I remember a few years ago, he was very upset that he didn't make the All Stars, and people kind of ripped on him for it. But he did have a monster year that year, to where he deserved it. And he's what now? He's now a three-time uh, Defensive Player of
yeah,
the Year. Isn't it back to back to back, or is it just back to back?
I don't know if it's back to back to back or not, but like,
I know he definitely has a lot of Defensive Player of the Year awards under his skin, which
and
probably
it's
doesn't
very
get
hard to play
overlooked as
good
much.
defense
Yeah,
in the
because
2020s NBA. It's very hard to play defense because the league has emphasized both in strategy, rule changes, and officiating. The league is emphasizing scoring more points than ever, being more efficient than ever, shooting more threes, getting more of those layups. And it's hard to be a defensive oriented player because that's not what the league cares about. It's not the 90s, it's not the mid 2000s. You're not going to see the, in when Jordan won his last championship, in one of the games, they held the Jazz to 59 points. Nowadays, teams are scoring 59 points in 20 minutes. Like, you're not going to see that type of defense anymore.
yeah, it's a whole new game.
A player like Rudy Gobert to stand out above the pack as an elite defender, that's not something you see anymore. I think that's an underappreciated skill set. And I definitely think he deserves it way more than Andrew Wiggins, who 2 years ago, we were talking about being one of the biggest busts of all time.
That is true. That's true. I remember. I remember. Last year when Clay was out, the Warriors made a stat called replacing Clay with bricks, and it was like Andrew Wiggins, and one of them was Andrew Wiggins' like shooting percentage. Like it just did not look good at all. Um, and and Rudy Gobert, you're absolutely right. I watch him play all the time as well. He's not a flashy guy, as you said. He's not the kind of guy to do like these chase down block, these like top 10 plays of the night, chase down blocks, just like John Morant had, to where he's got like rockets in his calves and hit his head on the backboard, chasing out a block. And he's also not the kind of guy to kind of flex a block or anything like that. He's not one of those walking highlight reels, so therefore he's kind of underappreciated to kind of fans that don't really look at the game, who don't really watch his game.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't watch Utah. Small market curse. Utah is probably second smallest market in front of maybe Antonio.
Oh, absolutely, because it's not that. Like the state is not that popular. Like all that really is kind of Salt Lake City.
Yeah, like ESPN, TNT, they're not going to broadcast the Utah Jazz. Like they'd rather show a mediocre Knicks team. Like even the Grizzlies got flexed out of a primetime game against the Spurs in favor of the Knicks getting blown out by 20.
Yeah, like, I saw that.
It's a lot easier to be an all-star in a city or on a team like Golden State, who have a big presence in California, who have a big presence nationally, who are constantly in headlines. It's easier to be an all-star there. And I don't think Wiggins deserves his all-star starter spot, much less his all-star spot at all. I think that there's going to be a couple of snubs who probably deserve it more. That's just the nature of the game. And at the end of the day, it's just the all-star game,
Yeah, it is. But it's always that kind of that talk as well, because that goes on to your permanent record. Probably like the game itself isn't like the biggest deal in the world, but the fact that you were called an all-star because you just had such a great performance, and you have put such a name of yourself to the fans, really says a lot. Also, I'm assuming kind of like while the voting process was happening, you saw that Klay Thompson was like fourth in guards in the West.
Yes.
Did you vote for him? Did you vote for him?
I did not.
I did not either. I think
All-Star
people
fan
went
voting
too
has always
crazy.
been whack, to be honest.
It is.
I'm gonna just quickly Google the final results because it's a 50-50 split. So that's why Gobert didn't make the starters because
Yeah, by the way, let me just give a quick history on that. There is a K-pop star named Bam Bam,
yes,
and he tweeted something saying like Andrew Wiggins. Give me a second. Well, I gotta find the tweet now. Bam Bam. Andrew Wiggins tweet. He was like praising Andrew Wiggins, and now there's all these K-pop stands out there who like love K-pop. They're all like, oh my god, he said, oh my god, he said this about me. They said that about Andrew Wiggins, therefore we should go vote for him. Like
yeah.
obviously, like
Andrew Wiggins is an all-star starter, and Paul George is not. DeAndre Ayton is not. Carmelo Anthony, Karl Anthony Towns, Gobert, Draymond Green, all not starters. Damian Lillard, Anthony Edwards, not starters. You know who's an all-star starter?
Andrew Wiggins.
Andrew Wiggins.
Yeah. Well, here's what Bam Bam said. He said it's the best time to begin 2022. He, as he is, this case is Andrew Wiggins, is one of the best two-way players. Wiggs deserves to be an all-star. Vote for Andrew Wiggins into the 2022 NBA All-Star game, and I can't wait to meet you all very soon. Like, and then this got like 72,000 likes, 37, almost 38,000 retweets. Like it, like that.
The power of K-pop.
Crazy about how popular K-pop is getting, and like literally, I kid you not, Twitter got Andrew Wiggins to an All-Star game. that's just that was literally it. He did not get it based off skill. He got it based off Twitter. I do think he may deserve to be a reserve, but not a starter.
I think Andrew Wiggins falls into that middle ground of he's not a great player, but he's not terrible. He's an average, above average player. So it's not even like you can say he's a meme. Like if they voted someone like, I don't know. I'm struggling to think of bad players who are still in the league. I was going to say Nick Stauskas, but I don't think he's in the league anymore.
Duncan
it's like
Robinson. You get Duncan Robinson.
Yeah, you vote Duncan Robinson. Okay, that's a meme player.
I mean, he's so bad.
Voting your Theo Pinsons into the All-Star game.
You're freaking Josh Okogie's.
Yeah,
into the game. It's not. It's not.
Bull.
Yeah, Bull. I'd rather see Bull.
It's not like a meme player. You can justify it as he's not really an all-star, but it's funny to see him out there, guarding LeBron, starting the All-Star game, getting his moment of glory. No, it's Andrew Wiggins. Like, he's not bad. He's good. He's not great. He's not an all-star. He's not one of the top 20, 30 players in the league.
No, not even close.
He's okay.
Not even close.
For an NBA player, he easily beat me at basketball, but comparing him to his contemporaries, he's an above average player. But that's not an all-star. That's not a superstar. That's not a max contract player like the Timberwolves thought he was. He's above average. And for a lot of guys, that's how it is. They're not going to be all-stars. I'm trying to think of other guys like Wiggins who made the all-star game. I know Korver made one. Tyson Chandler was an all-star.
Tyson Chandler, if we're talking about Knicks Tyson Chandler, he was pretty good.
Yeah.
Knicks Tyson Chandler was good, but Rockets Tyson Chandler, not so much. I
like 2010 Allen Iverson.
2010 Allen Iverson, probably one of the most washed, most washed form.
You know, that's just the nature of the All-Star game. But sometimes one of those overachieving role players gets named. Roy Hibbert made an All-Star team. Wally Zerbiak made an All-Star team.
It's all ridiculous. Most of it is fan voting anyway. So
Yeah,
the thing that I find funny is that I know some of these players didn't campaign, and I don't think Andrew Wiggins campaigned. It was the K-pop star that campaigned for him, which was just honestly, it was genius. It was absolutely genius that it worked out like that. Wait,
so I
no.
have found so far the worst All-Star that I could find
Oh God.
was James Donaldson back in the 80s. And if you've never heard of him, the reason was because his All-Star season, he scored 7 points per game.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. Big one.
so Wiggins is not that bad. He's averaging 18. He's better than Dale Davis, but overall questionable.
That's not saying much though. It's
Yeah.
really not. But anyway, I want to move from the All-Star game over to a big thing that's happening because in T-8 days is the NBA trade deadline.
Yes.
So what trade? We'll start with you. We'll start with you. What trades do you think are going through? Because there's a lot of trade wars, and they always kind of go up and down. They go this way and that way. This one's getting traded. That one's getting traded.
Yeah, it's been a very quiet season trade-wise. A lot of teams have stuck with their guys. I don't think that stays the same. I think as we get closer to the deadline, I think LeBron blows it up like he did his last year in Cleveland. I can see Westbrook on the move for, I don't know, even someone like a Jeremy Grant, who on paper looks good, but in actuality, as the number one option, his team is in last place. I don't think that Lakers core sticks together. They're underachieving. There was a highlight earlier this year where LeBron was literally the only person in the front court and everyone else was behind him, and it was a 1v5. I don't think that team sticks together. I don't think they last. I think Westbrook is probably out of there. I think the only real safe player on that team right now is Austin Reeves. When Austin Reeves is the only option you can count on, not named LeBron James, that's rough. Anthony Davis is very injury prone, but he's always been fragile. But when he's there, the Lakers are good. They have LeBron, they have Anthony Davis. But LeBron's 37. He can't do this all on his own. It's not 2007. The league has gotten better. There's more teams that can beat the Lakers, and they're 3 games below 500 a week before the trade deadline. And I don't think LeBron's going to accept that. I think the Lakers have been kind of a dumpster fire for a while, but they got bailed out by that LeBron James signing. And I think they're going to go all in, try and make something happen. Whether or not it'll be good decisions or not remain to be seen. But I don't think that core, if you can call it that, makes it through. DeAndre Jordan, I'm not sure how he's managed to get an NBA contract for the past 3 years, playing on 2 contenders, or at least on paper contenders. I don't think he lasts in Los Angeles. I don't think Westbrook lasts in Los Angeles. Elsewhere, I could see the Kings trying to make a move for Ben Simmons.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're still interested in him or not. But if the Kings, who are known for bad managerial decisions, are turning down your trade offers, I think it's time to re-examine your demands for the player. But a lot of these teams, I think John Wall can move. He hasn't played in a long time. And he's getting paid a max contract to sit at home. But it is what it is. And we're gonna see. I'm hoping for some trade deadline chaos because that's entertaining. I don't think a lot of the top teams are going to be searching for players. I think the Nets might move someone like Claxton to try and get some immediate relief. Mortgage the future a little bit more. But I'm not an NBA insider. I can only, go off my gut feeling and what I'm seeing. And what I'm seeing is a very mediocre at best Lakers team who has made decisions that are the opposite of team cohesion and fit for play style. And I think that team gets blown up for some wing shooting and some spacing.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of people that are expected to get traded. Obviously, the biggest one is Ben Simmons. Now, on January 28th, it recently came out that the Kings, are no longer going to pursue Ben Simmons, which is bad because I thought that would have been a pretty decent trade. However, there was always one in my mind that I thought would actually work. I legitimately believe that you could trade Zion for Ben Simmons. Because first of all, they have a similar play style, and the play style is they don't play.
Yeah. With Ben Simmons, it's voluntarily not playing. With Zion Williamson, he's had this injury, and a few weeks ago there was a report that he's handling his own rehab instead of the team.
He's an idiot. He's an absolute idiot.
So that whole 2019 draft class outside of John Morant has kind of fallen apart. There was a lot of hype for that class, especially after how stacked the year before was, giving us Luka, Ray, Ayton. But 2019, Zion, he's played less than a full season of games, and he's in his third, fourth year in the league.
He's in his third season.
Yeah, he's played maybe 30 games. I mean, it's been disappointing. Cam Reddish is on the bench for the Knicks.
Yeah, you train for Kevin Knox. He doesn't even play. It's just not a good look at all. But my thing is with Zion is that at least when you get Zion, I feel like I feel that you're kind of if I'm the Sixers, I'm a little bit conflicted because I want Ben Simmons out of there as soon as I can.
Yes.
But if I'm also
play there.
Yeah, but if I'm also the Sixers, I want a guard for a guard. So I mean, something tells me that they could always get like Devontae Graham for Ben Simmons, and that might work out. But the issue is that Daryl Morey is constantly like, oh, we want a superstar. What a superstar! You're not getting a superstar for Ben Simmons. You overpaid the guy for one thing. You paid him $40 million, and he can't shoot.
Morey didn't overpay him, but
Morey didn't overpay, but the Sixers front office overpaid him.
The NBA took, because of the whole Hinkie and the process, I think the NBA kind of brought the hammer down, because the NBA were who put in the Colangelo family, and they didn't get ousted until it was the burner account conundrum was revealed. So I don't know. I feel like the Sixers have been kind of cursed since the process and since the NBA forced them to get rid of Hinkie. It's been nothing but bad managerial decisions. Elton Brand, trading Jimmy Butler, or not re-signing Jimmy Butler after trading for him, trading your future guys, Saric, Covington, betting your future on Jimmy Butler, and then letting him walk in favor of Tobias Harris and Ben Simmons. I think Morey has made some good moves. He brought in Seth Curry, who's been a lifeline for that team.
Yeah, Seth Curry is very good.
I think Daryl Morey is willing to waste possibly the best year Embiid is ever going to have in a foolish pursuit of a superstar he's not going to get for Ben Simmons.
Exactly. You hit the nail right on the head. That Ben Simmons is a glorified forward, except he's not even that good at it.
Ironically, he fits what the Sixers are missing.
I know, but like he cannot shoot anything outside of the baseline, basically. Because and I mean the guy stinks. I don't even think he's that fantastic of a defender either. I think he's good, but not great. But even that, it's not enough for that because you're supposed to be a point guard. You can't even shoot a three. I mean, your three his 3 point percentage is atrocious,
I don't.
and that also goes the same with Russell Westbrook, to where there's rumors of him, John Wall getting traded there, and I think it's a fine move, but I just don't think I don't think anything in the world is going to be enough to bring that Lakers team up because John Wall, as good of a player as he is, I still think you have LeBron, who's not playing fantastic. You have Anthony Davis, who's always injured. And then you have Carmelo, who's not really playing that great either. John Wall's basically he's just gonna kind of be there, gonna try to do the best he can, but it still won't be enough. Also, another person that should get traded but won't, unfortunately, I just want to say this now, is Victor Oladipo. Like that guy is just like he's never gonna play.
I mean, who are you gonna trade for him?
I
That's
don't
what you
know
got
who
to
you're gonna
consider.
trade for him, but
You can't just magically trade a player if no one else wants him. We're seeing this with Ben
that's
Simmons.
true.
I think Oladipo is. I think his career has been heavily derailed by injury, and I think that he really had a chance at getting a huge contract extension, and then it didn't work out. He didn't sign it with the Rockets because he took a gamble on himself with the Heat, and then he got injured. And I think that he's probably lost something like $80 million because of that injury. Um, I think Oladipo can still be a quality player, but I don't think he'll ever be at his peak, who was going head to head with LeBron in the playoffs. Um, Oladipo, you can trade him. I'm not sure to who, but I don't think he's necessarily a huge sink. I mean, he's not on a huge contract. Like, he could turn out to be another role player if he comes back from injury, and if he's at like if he's 50% as good as he was a few years ago, that's still a high quality NBA player, especially on a cheap contract for Miami. So I disagree with you there.
I mean, also, back to while we're on the East Side here, Bradley Beal might be kind of he's quote unquote conflicted about his future with the Wizards. This is per David Aldridge. And there is a rumor that there could potentially be that the Sixers are interested in a trade of Ben Simmons for Bradley Beal. Like this is exactly what I'm talking about with like how stupid that is. Do they not get it? That's what I'm saying. Do the Sixers just not get that they're not going to get an all-star caliber player for Ben Simmons?
I think
I
if anyone's
don't
getting from the Wizards, it's going to be Spencer Dinwiddie. And
that's going to be your best bet.
I like Dinwiddie. He was a former Net. He was kind of a weirdo, but always kind of endearing when he was on the Nets. But it hasn't worked out with the Wizards. According to what he himself has said, his teammates don't care for him that much, and he's having a down year. Which, I mean, coming back from an ACL injury is hard, but he's shooting like 35%. So if I think someone is going to look at Spencer Dinwiddie from 3 years ago and be like, "Oh, we can fix him," and they cannot fix him.
No, they can't. I personally in Philly have not trusted the process. I refuse to trust the process. After this, I really hope they get Ben Simmons out of there because he's just so detrimental to that team. But the problem is you're basically stuck in between a rock and a hard place. You cannot. I find it ridiculous for them to even think that any of these GMs are stupid enough to say say we have this superstar caliber player. Let's just get rid of him. Let's just get rid of him and put Ben Simmons there. Because
Yeah.
it's just never gonna work out.
And even without Simmons, the Sixers are the 3 seed right now. But like, do you genuinely believe that they are a championship caliber team?
No, I
Do you
know.
believe the
There
76ers? I don't. I think the
no.
Sixers, especially if they match up with Brooklyn, I think a I think they could beat Brooklyn just because Joel Embiid can single-handedly carry them over a lacking net at the center position. But like if they match up with Cleveland or the Bucks or even the Hornets could probably give them a scare in the first round. I
They
think
could.
that the Sixers are, it all depends on the matchup. If their ceiling is the Eastern Conference Finals, if they get lucky and they avoid playing the Bucks, the Heat, or the Cavaliers until then.
Yeah, I think the Heat, personally, I think the Heat take it to the finals with the way they've been playing. I mean, I know they're on a 3-game L streak right now, which is unfortunate, but based on how they've been playing in kind of recent times before those games, they are really good. Like they are. I mean, at one point they were the number 1 seed until they're on this 3-game losing slump. But the thing is, they have one of the most underrated benches in the league. Because even without Jimmy Butler, without Bam, they stepped up like Max Strus. I mean, I know he was on the Celtics at one point, but like, have you really ever heard of Max Strus being getting such praise until now? Like, come on. But he's playing that well. Caleb Martin, haven't really heard about him either. He's the identical twin of the Hornets player Cody Martin. But aside from that, that's it. And even Omer Yurtseven, I'm pissed. I'm
Why are
pissed
you
about what the
pissed?
Heat did with that. I am pissed because Bam's out, then Dwayne Dedmon's out, and then Omer Yurtseven comes in, and he becomes like this walking double double. He's fantastic on the court, great defender, fantastic inside shooter. And then when Bam and Dedmon come back, they just take him out of the rotation. Like, I know he's currently out for health and safety, but even before he was out, they still put him out of the rotation. And he's like, oh, it's like, it is what it is, no big deal. But it is a big deal because they were winning with him. And after the way he played, he deserved without a doubt to be not the starter for Bam, because I don't think any center on that team can replace Bam Adebayo in that starting role, but at least give him the backup role for him. That's all you have to do.
Yeah. I think the Heat, I'm not sure if I think they're a finals team, but I think they're going to make a lot of noise. I think that, last year they were the least rested team, and it showed when they kind of gassed out at the end of the season. But I think now that they've had a full off season, they're playing a lot better than they did last year. And even with some major injuries, they're still playing really well. So I think Miami has a shot at making the Eastern Conference Finals. But obviously I have my homer pick in Brooklyn because, Kevin Durant, James Harden themselves are just playoff performers. And as long as they don't go 0 for 27 or Kevin Durant doesn't wear shoes that are half a size too large because he likes the comfort more, I think the Nets can also make the Eastern Conference or NBA Finals, despite how much they're trying to get in their own way. I think the Bucks as defending champions, I mean, obviously they're a pick. I think the Bulls, I don't know if I believe in the Bulls. I don't know if DeMar DeRozan can keep up this performance.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think he's gonna be.
I think the Bulls are a paper tiger, and I might be eating my words 2 months from now. We might be pulling up a clip of this podcast and editing me with like a clown wig on when the Bulls win the championship in 4 games. But I really don't think outside of DeRozan, LaVine, and Lonzo, like I don't think this team has the depth to win a championship. Like, do you really think that Alfonso McKinney is a
No, I
championship
really
quality
don't.
backup power forward?
No, but I also don't think Kobe Weissman playing that well either. I really think outside of Zach Levine, Vucevic, and DeMar DeRozan, I think he kind of got no one at that point. Like you had Alex Caruso, and then Grayson Allen just decides to pistol whip his wrist, and just said fracture it, and then he only gets a 1 day suspension. I still think it's BS, by the way, but that's another story for another day. Anyway, that's going to be it for our podcast today. Ethan, any final thoughts you got?
Nets in 7.
All right, Nets in 7. All right, good. I'm gonna say Heat in 5 for us.
Bucks.
For
I think we can come to a middle ground. Bucks in 6.
Bucks in 6. All right, fine. Bucks in 6. All right, but or we could do the NBA meme where everyone was like Suns in 4. There we go, Suns in 4. All right, well that's gonna be it, guys. Yeah, that's gonna be it, guys. Have a great rest. Have a great rest of your day, and tune in and tune into our podcast once, I believe, every other week. But with that being said, have a great night. See ya.